There is a terrifying moment on the path of awakening that no one prepares you for. It's the moment after the insight, after the breakthrough, after you've started the brave work of taking off the mask. You expect to feel lighter, freer, more whole. Instead, you feel broken. It's a shattering, a sense that the person you used to be is dissolving into dust, but the new person hasn't yet arrived. You feel more fragile, more confused, and more vulnerable than ever before. It feels like a catastrophic failure, like all your hard inner work has somehow led you to a state of complete breakdown. If you are feeling this right now, take a deep breath. You are not going backward. You are not doing it wrong. You are in the most sacred and most misunderstood stage of transformation. The great alchemists of the past had a name for this. They called it the nigredo, the blackening, the dissolution. It is the stage where all that is false must first be burned away, reduced to ash, before the gold can be revealed. Carl Jung, who studied these ancient traditions deeply, saw this as the psychological equivalent of a caterpillar dissolving inside its chrysalis, a necessary and purposeful descent into chaos before the rebirth can occur. This feeling of being broken is not the end of your healing. It is the undeniable evidence that the deepest healing has truly begun. This is the holy ground of shadow work, and today we will learn how to walk through this fire. We will learn why this deconstruction is the prerequisite for the strongest reconstruction. Because you are not breaking down, you are breaking open.
To understand why this breaking feels so personal and catastrophic, we must first understand what exactly is breaking. It is not you. It is your ego structure. The ego, as we've discussed, is the identity we build to survive in the world. It is a complex architecture of beliefs, defense mechanisms, and coping strategies, all built upon the foundation of our childhood experiences. Think of it as a house you built when you were a small child. You used the materials that were available to you at the time. If you grew up in a home where anger was unsafe, you built your house without any windows to let that storm in. If you learned that your needs were a burden, you built your house without a pantry, learning to survive on very little. If you were praised for being a good girl or a strong boy, you built the walls of your house with the rigid bricks of perfectionism and self-reliance. For years, this house served you. It protected you. It kept you safe in the environment you grew up in. It was a masterpiece of childhood engineering. But you are no longer a child, and you are no longer living in that old environment. The inner work you have been doing, the shadow work, the self-inquiry, is like an internal earthquake. It has shaken the very foundations of this old house. You have started to realize that the walls that once protected you are now imprisoning you. The lack of windows that kept the storms out is now suffocating you in the dark. The lack of a pantry that taught you to survive is now starving you. The feeling of breaking down is the feeling of this old house starting to crumble. The roof is leaking, the walls are cracking, the floor feels unstable, and the ego, the architect and resident of this house, is in a state of absolute panic. From its perspective, its entire world is ending. And since you have been identified with your ego for so long, you believe your world is ending. This is the source of the terror. Let's think about a woman named Karen, a 50-year-old who built her entire identity on being the problem solver. At work, at home, with friends, her sense of worth came from fixing things for others.
Her ego structure was a fortress of competence. But her shadow work revealed a deep, unmet need to be cared for, to be vulnerable, to not have all the answers. As she began to tentatively honor this need, by asking for help with a small task, by admitting she was tired, the earthquake began. Her colleagues seemed confused. Her family felt unmoored. The system that relied on her being the strong one began to malfunction. The validation she used to get from solving everything disappeared, and Karen felt like she was free-falling. Her identity, the very definition of who she was shattering. If she wasn't the problem solver, who was she? The question echoed in a terrifying void. She felt broken, useless, incompetent. All the traits she had exiled to her shadow, her vulnerability, her uncertainty, her neediness, were now rushing up from the basement as the house crumbled. And it felt like chaos. This process is what Carl Jung would describe as a confrontation with the unconscious. As the ego structure weakens, the contents of the shadow, both the dark and the golden parts we've repressed, begin to surge into our conscious awareness. This is why this period feels so confusing. One moment you might be overwhelmed by a wave of old sadness or rage. The next, you might feel a flicker of a long-lost creative passion or a deep spiritual yearning. You feel fragmented, scattered, like a collection of disconnected parts. The old you, the seemingly coherent personality run by the ego, is gone, and the new, more integrated self has not yet fully coalesced. You are in the in-between. You are in the rubble. Our society has no language for this sacred process. It sees this state and calls it depression. It calls it a midlife crisis. It pathologizes it and tries to fix it, to quickly rebuild the old house. But Jung and the wisdom traditions knew better. They knew that you cannot build a new, stronger structure on top of a rotten foundation. The old house must come down completely. You must be willing to sit in the rubble. You must be willing to feel the groundlessness. You must be willing to let go of the illusion of control. This is an act of profound surrender. It is the surrender of the ego's agenda to a larger, wiser process. It is the understanding that this deconstruction is not a punishment. It is a grace. It is the soul's powerful, intelligent way of clearing the ground so that something far more authentic, far more resilient, and far more you can finally be built.
A grace. It is one of the hardest things in the world to believe that your own breakdown is an act of grace, especially when it feels so raw, so chaotic, so terrifying. So the question becomes a very practical one. How do we survive this? How do we navigate the rubble of our old selves without losing our minds? How do we learn to trust a process that feels so much like dying? The answer is not to try and speed up the reconstruction. The answer lies in learning the art of the sacred pause. It is about creating a safe container for your own dissolution. The first strategy is to radically simplify your external world. When a caterpillar is in its chrysalis, it does not also try to build a new nest or forage for food. It finds a safe, quiet place, and it surrenders completely to the process of its own undoing. Your psyche is asking for the same. This is not the time to take on a new, demanding project at work. It is not the time to commit to major social obligations. It is not the time to make big, life-altering decisions. Your primary job right now is to reduce external stimulation as much as possible. This is a time for subtraction, not addition. Say no more often. Delegate what you can. Let go of the need for your house to be perfectly clean. Give yourself permission to do the bare minimum required to get by. The energy you conserve from the external world is the very energy your psyche needs to do its deep internal work. You are creating a quiet space for the alchemy to happen. You are honoring the chrysalis. The second, and perhaps most powerful strategy, is to anchor yourself in the physical. When your identity, your thoughts, and your emotions feel like a chaotic storm, your body is your anchor. It is the one thing that is always undeniably in the present moment. This is a time for practices that bring you out of the swirling chaos of your mind and into the solid reality of your senses. This does not have to be complicated. It can be as simple as taking off your shoes and standing on the grass for 5 minutes. Feel the earth beneath your feet. This is called grounding, and it is a powerful way to regulate a distressed nervous system. It can be the practice of mindful eating. When you have a meal, just for the first 3 bites, pay complete attention. Notice the texture, the temperature, the taste. Anchor yourself in the simple physical act of nourishment. It can be the simple act of holding a warm cup of tea in your hands and just feeling the heat, or listening intently to a single piece of music, tracing the path of one instrument. These are not distractions from your pain. They are tools to help you contain it. They are ways of saying to your panicked mind, "It's okay. Right here in this physical moment, we are safe. The house may be crumbling, but the ground beneath us is still solid." This brings us to the third strategy. Find a safe witness. While the journey of individuation is a solitary one, it does not have to be a lonely one. In this period of immense vulnerability, it is vital to have at least one person in your life who can hold space for your process. This is not someone who will try to fix you. It is not someone who will give you advice or tell you to just be positive. In fact, those people can be harmful during this phase. A safe witness is someone who can sit with you in the rubble, in the not knowing, without needing to clean it up. It is someone who can listen to your confusion without becoming anxious themselves. It is someone who can simply say, "Wow, that sounds incredibly hard. I'm here with you," and mean it. This could be a therapist trained in depth psychology. It could be a deeply trusted friend. It could be a support group. The role of this witness is not to guide you, but to reflect back to you that you are not crazy. They're the external reminder that this chaotic process is, in fact, a coherent and meaningful journey. They're the lighthouse on the shore, not trying to pull your ship, but simply providing a steady light in the darkness, reminding you that land is real. By simplifying your world, anchoring in your body, and finding a safe witness, you create a trinity of support, a container. This container allows you to do the real work of this phase, which is to simply allow. To allow the old beliefs to crumble. To allow the painful feelings to surface and move through you without judgment. To allow yourself to be messy, incomplete, and in process. You are moving from being the architect of your life to being the curious observer of your own becoming. And in that shift, something remarkable happens. The panic begins to subside. The terror of the void is replaced by a quiet curiosity. You start to notice the beauty in the rubble. This is the shift in perception that signals the dawn after the dark night. It is the moment you stop seeing only what has been lost and you start to notice what is being found. The signs of rebirth are not loud. They do not arrive like a trumpet blast. They are subtle. They are quiet. They are like the first tiny green shoots pushing up through the ashes after a forest fire. You have to be looking for them to see them. So what are these signs? How do you know that the chaos is starting to organize itself into a new, more authentic form? One of the first signs is a change in your values. The things that used to matter to you, the things that your ego relentlessly pursued, simply lose their charge. The promotion at work, the bigger house, the need to be seen as successful in the eyes of others, they start to feel like hollow echoes from a past life. In their place, new quieter values begin to emerge. You might find yourself valuing peace over achievement, authenticity over approval, connection to nature over material possessions. This is not a conscious choice. It is a natural reorientation of your soul, like a plant turning towards a new source of light. Your inner compass, the self, is beginning to broadcast its own true north. A second sign is a newfound sensitivity. This can be challenging. You might find that you can no longer tolerate the things you used to. The noisy crowds, the superficial conversations, the dramatic energy of certain people or places. Your system, once numbed by the persona, is now raw and exquisitely sensitive. This is not a weakness. It is a sign of your aliveness. You are no longer buffered from reality. You are feeling things deeply and truly, perhaps for the first time. This sensitivity is a gift. It is a guidance system, telling you clearly what environments and energies nourish you and which ones drain you. It is teaching you to build a life that is in alignment with your actual nervous system, not the one that you pretended to have. A third and very beautiful sign is the return of wonder. You may start to experience moments of simple, unprompted joy and awe. The way the light hits a dust mote in your room, the intricate pattern on a leaf, the taste of a perfectly ripe strawberry. These are moments the ego, in its relentless pursuit of big goals, usually misses. But as the ego quiets down, the soul's natural capacity for wonder and appreciation begins to return. You're starting to see the world not as a project to be managed, but as a mystery to be experienced. You're regaining your beginner's mind. This process is a core part of the Jungian journey. It is about reconnecting with the archetype of the divine child within us, the part that is open, curious, and in awe of life itself. So how can we actively cultivate this new awareness? How can we practice seeing the signs of our own rebirth? Here's a simple yet profound shadow work exercise for this stage. Let's call it gathering the gold. Every evening, before you sleep, take just 5 minutes. Take out a journal or a piece of paper, and I want you to answer 2 questions. First, what is one false thing I was glad to let go of today? This question helps you reframe the loss you are feeling. It helps you see the deconstruction as a form of liberation. Maybe the answer is, I was glad to let go of the need to have an opinion on everything. Or, I was glad to let go of the pressure to be cheerful for someone else. Or, I was glad to let go of the belief that my worth is in my productivity. By naming what you've released, you honor the freedom you are gaining. Second question, where did I find one small piece of gold today? A piece of gold is a sign of your authentic self emerging. It is a moment of peace, a spark of wonder, a flicker of a new value. Maybe your gold was the 10 minutes I spent just watching the sunset, or the moment I felt a genuine connection with my pet, or the tiny, quiet yes I felt when I thought about learning to paint. This is not about forcing positivity. It is about training your attention. You're training yourself to look for evidence of your own becoming. You are panning for gold in the river of your daily experience. When you do this consistently, you start to see that you are not, in fact, broken. You are a mosaic.
You are a collection of beautiful, authentic pieces being reassembled into a new, more honest, and far more resilient whole. The old you had to shatter so that these lost golden pieces could finally find their way back into the design. This is the promise of the alchemical furnace. The fire burns away the dross, the impurities, the false self. And what remains is pure gold. It is the indestructible, luminous, and eternal essence of who you truly are. The self. And that self is being born right now in the very heart of your brokenness. And so we learn to trust the wisdom of the winter. We learn to see the beauty in the breaking. We began this journey in the terrifying space of dissolution, feeling that our very foundation was crumbling beneath us. We now understand that this was not a breakdown, but a necessary and sacred deconstruction. It was the demolition of the old, ill-fitting house of the ego. We learned that the path through this chaos is not to fight it, but to create a safe container for it. Through radical simplification, through anchoring in the body, and through the presence of a safe witness. And finally, we learned to shift our focus from seeing what was lost to panning for the gold in the rubble, to noticing the quiet signs of our own rebirth. This is the promise of shadow work. This is the path of wholeness that Carl Jung so beautifully illuminated. It is not a path of perfection, but of integration. It is about having the courage to embrace the totality of your experience, the breaking and the becoming. As you begin to piece yourself back together, not as you were, but as you truly are, you will feel a new kind of strength, a quiet resilience. But this new strength, this new commitment to your own needs, will inevitably be tested by the world. As you operate from this more authentic place, you'll become exquisitely sensitive to the demands and expectations of others. You will start to notice, perhaps for the first time, how often people try to pull you back into your old roles. And a new, fiery emotion may begin to rise from the ashes of your old self. Resentment. You may feel it towards a family member who doesn't respect your new boundaries, towards a colleague who takes your energy for granted, towards a world that still demands you be small. What is this resentment, and what is its purpose on your healing path? This powerful, often uncomfortable emotion is not a step backward. It is a messenger. It is the fierce guardian of your newfound wholeness. Understanding this resentment, learning to work with it instead of being consumed by it, is the next crucial step in your journey. And that is exactly what we will explore together in our next video. I invite you to subscribe to continue this profound work with us. For now, continue to be the gentle archaeologist of your own soul. Continue the practice of gathering the gold. In the comments below, I invite you to share one small piece of gold you found this week. One moment of peace, one flicker of wonder, one false belief you were glad to release. Your story is a beacon of hope for others who are sitting in their own rubble, wondering if the light will ever return. Let's remind each other that it will, because you are not just surviving this. You are being reborn. And the world is waiting for the beautiful, whole, and authentic person you are becoming.